Road test, Nextcloud vs SharePoint. In the wide world of enterprise IT, there are certain names that crop up again and again when it comes to storing, sharing, and collaborating on documents. Some are familiar, consumer-grade faces like Dropbox or Google Drive. But when it comes to serious, enterprise-grade platforms, two names dominate the conversation: Nextcloud and Microsoft SharePoint. They are not quite opposites, but they come from very different places. One is a proudly open-source, self-hosted solution with a fan base that would sooner eat their keyboard than give their data to Microsoft. The other is, well, Microsoft's, a sprawling behemoth that has evolved over 2 decades to become the backbone of many corporate IT estates, whether users like it or not. Today, we're taking them both for a long-form road test. Not so much pitting a Ferrari against a Fiesta, but rather two different kinds of transport for the same journey, one a flexible kit you assemble yourself, the other an industrial coach service that runs on its own timetable. Let's see how they fare once you get behind the wheel. First impressions. Nextcloud arrives like a smart hatchback from an independent maker. It's sleek, modern, no unnecessary chrome, and it wears its open-source credentials like a badge of honor. Out of the box, it looks like what most users expect from a modern file-sharing platform: clean web interface, tidy apps, and the promise of privacy. But beneath the bonnet lies the real attraction: you can set it up however you want, wherever you want. That's both the blessing and the curse. SharePoint rolls up in full corporate livery. It's big, it's imposing, and it's immediately clear that this isn't a weekend hobby project. SharePoint Online, now firmly welded into the Microsoft 365 suite, promises you everything: document libraries, workflows, intranet pages, Teams integration, compliance dashboards, and so on. The catch: it demands you play by Microsoft's rules. The brochure looks stunning, but you don't get to pick the paint color. Getting set up. Like any good road test, we start with how easy it is to get going. Nextcloud is available as a free download. Installation can be done via a web installer, Docker, or Linux packages. If you've got a capable IT team, you can have a basic instance up and running in an afternoon. Self-hosters can pop it on a Raspberry Pi at home if they are feeling brave. Enterprises can deploy it on clustered servers in their own data centers. It's that flexible. But, much like building IKEA furniture, you'll need the patience, and ideally a manual that makes sense, to get it perfect. SharePoint, by contrast, is all about convenience, if you're already in Microsoft's world. Sign up for Microsoft 365, and SharePoint Online is there waiting, integrated with OneDrive and Teams. No need to worry about servers, patches, or database tuning. Microsoft handles it. The flip side: you're tied to their infrastructure. It's like buying a car on a lease, great while it works, but you can't exactly swap the engine out for something you fancy. Behind the wheel, user experience. The acid test of any platform is what it's like day to day. Nextcloud is pleasantly minimalistic. Uploading and sharing files is obvious and quick. The interface borrows cues from the likes of Dropbox and Google Drive, so users feel at home immediately. Sharing links, adding passwords, setting expirations, it's all intuitive. And when you bolt on the collaborative apps, such as OnlyOffice or Collabora, you get proper real-time editing of Word and Excel documents. SharePoint, meanwhile, is powerful but busy. The modern experience in SharePoint Online is much better than the clunky versions of old, but it still suffers from complexity. Navigating libraries, adjusting permissions, building intranet pages, it's all there, but often takes several clicks more than feels natural. For those used to Teams and Office integration, though, it feels familiar. You can open a Word doc straight from SharePoint in the desktop app, co-author with colleagues in real time, and save it back seamlessly. That's slick. Verdict at this stage: Nextcloud feels like slipping into a well-designed small car with good visibility. SharePoint is more like piloting a coach, very capable, but you'll need some training before you're confident at the wheel. Handling collaboration. Modern workplaces live or die by collaboration features. Nextcloud brings you the essentials. File sharing is easy, group folders are available, and Talk, its built-in chat and video tool, covers the basics. Calendars and tasks can be enabled for teams that want an integrated suite. It's not flashy, but it works. The modular app system means you can pick what you want without clutter. SharePoint, however, throws everything at the wall. It's tied deeply into Teams for chat and meetings, Outlook for calendars, Power Automate for workflows, and Office for editing. Collaboration here isn't a bolt-on, it's the core purpose. That's brilliant when it all works, but it can feel like being given a fighter jet when you only wanted a bicycle. The sheer breadth can overwhelm smaller teams who just wanted simple file sharing. Security and compliance. Security isn't the glamorous side of IT, but it's where CIOs lose sleep. Nextcloud's trump card is sovereignty. You pick where the data lives. If you want it in your office server room under lock and key, it's there. If you want it on AWS or a German hosting provider, that's your choice. Encryption, audit logs, and two-factor authentication are built in. GDPR compliance is straightforward because you decide the jurisdiction. The trade-off: you carry the responsibility for keeping it patched and secure. Neglect it, and you'll be driving a car without an MO. SharePoint, on the other hand, is Microsoft's problem, at least on paper. Hosted in Microsoft's data centers, it comes with enterprise-grade compliance certifications, global redundancy, and sophisticated security tooling. Encryption at rest and in transit is standard. Regulators are used to Microsoft environments, so audits go smoothly. But the data sovereignty isn't truly yours, you're trusting Redmond's interpretation of global regulations. For many enterprises, that's acceptable. For governments, NGOs, or privacy-focused groups, it can be a sticking point. Integration with the rest of the garage. An IT platform rarely lives in isolation, it has to work with the rest of the estate. Nextcloud integrates with LDAP, Active Directory, SAML, and has connectors for all manner of services. Its App Store lets you add project management, note-taking, weather, or even a cookbook if you're bored on a Friday afternoon. But integration with heavy-duty enterprise tools sometimes takes tinkering. APIs exist, but you might need to get your hands dirty. SharePoint is the king of integration, at least if you live in Microsoft land. Teams, Outlook, Office, Dynamics, Power BI, it all meshes beautifully. The dream of opening a spreadsheet in Teams, discussing it in a chat, then surfacing its data in Power BI dashboards is very much alive. Integration with non-Microsoft tools is possible, but always feels slightly grudging. Microsoft would rather you stayed firmly in their walled garden. Performance and scalability. Performance matters when you've got hundreds or thousands of users hammering the system. Nextcloud performs admirably at SME scale and can be tuned to run at enterprise scale with clustering, caching, and decent infrastructure. But it's not out of the box at that level. You'll need proper sysadmins to keep it humming. Think of it as a sports saloon, capable of long-distance motorway runs, but only if you keep it well serviced. SharePoint Online, meanwhile, scales elastically. If you've got 50,000 staff spread across 20 countries, it'll handle it. Microsoft's cloud takes care of the performance tuning behind the scenes. For sheer scalability, SharePoint wins hands down. Of course, that comes with the usual quirks of any cloud service, occasional slowdowns, outages, and the sense that you don't have control over the engine. Costs and value. Here's where wallets start to twitch. Nextcloud itself is free. That's the beauty of open source. But free doesn't mean costless. You'll need servers, staff time, and possibly enterprise support contracts. For SMEs or universities with capable IT teams, it can be far cheaper than proprietary alternatives. For a global bank, the DIY overhead might not make sense. SharePoint is bundled with Microsoft 365. That makes it look cheap, because you're already paying for Outlook, Teams, and Word. In practice, the subscription costs add up, and extras like storage expansions or premium Power Automate flows can push the bill higher. Still, for enterprises already locked into Microsoft, SharePoint often works out as good value because it's part of the package. Community vs vendor. Nextcloud has a passionate community. Forums, Git Hub, and open source contributors keep it vibrant. You can even request features, and if the community likes them, they might appear. The flip side, community support doesn't always meet enterprise SLA standards. SharePoint comes with Microsoft's gargantuan partner ecosystem. Certified consultants, training programs, and support contracts are everywhere. The roadmap is entirely Microsoft's, though, so if they decide to change something, hello, Teams integration, you're coming along whether you like it or not. Strengths in brief. Nextcloud, data sovereignty, flexibility, clean interface, open source freedom. SharePoint, integration with Microsoft 365, enterprise compliance, global scalability, deep functionality. Weaknesses in brief. Nextcloud requires in-house expertise, can be fiddly at scale, search weaker than enterprise rivals. SharePoint, complexity, login, costs can balloon, interface still confusing for some users. Verdict. So, after a week of test driving both, which one gets the nod? If you're an SME, a university, a privacy-focused NGO, or anyone with a strong IT team and a dislike of vendor lock-in, Nextcloud is a fantastic choice. It's light, agile, and endlessly configurable. It lets you decide where your data lives, and it does the essentials of file sharing and collaboration very well indeed. If you're a multinational corporation, a government department with compliance obligations up to your neck, or simply already embedded in Microsoft 365, SharePoint is the obvious pick. It integrates with everything, scales to ridiculous levels, and ticks the compliance boxes. You might curse it when you're 3 menus deep in permissions, but it's an enterprise standard for a reason. In truth, it's not so much a case of better or worse but of different philosophies. Nextcloud is the self-build kit car, flexible, yours to customize, rewarding if you put the effort in. SharePoint is the company car, comes in one color, serviced by the manufacturer, and it'll get you from A to B with minimum fuss, as long as you don't mind paying the monthly lease. Both will get you where you need to go. The real question is, do you want the keys in your own hands, or are you happy to let Microsoft drive?